Alright, people. Review of the week time. So, lot to talk about. Well, actually, I say lot to talk about the cards that happened over the weekend. But in terms of the week itself, it wasn't the busiest week in terms of boxing. I mean, there wasn't kind of news breaking every other day. There was, bits here and there. And obviously, given the fact there was a couple of cards on the weekend, the fallout from them. So that's mainly what we're going to be discussing in this. So, I haven't seen every fight on this card yet. So I will talk about the fights that I have seen. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is the one over in America, the one that happened in Las Vegas last night. We'll talk a bit about the fallout from that as well. There's a lot of fallout from that card. So, first and foremost, I did see bits of the Sergey Lipinets, Michael Rivera fight. Lipinets, I mean, he had a run very briefly as IBF champion a few years ago. He lost that to Mikey Garcia. And, it's weird. Since, he lost to Mikey Garcia, and then he just kind of just fell away a little bit. Had a majority decision against Eric Bone, who is not amazing. Kisto Clayton, I think is how you pronounce that guy's name. God, that was a real bad beat he took against Jerron Ennis, and now he's lost this fight against Michael Rivera. Competitive. That was on the free to air. That was on YouTube portion of the fight that was on last night. So I've seen that Michael Rivera. He lost around about this time last year, wasn't it? Actually, he hasn't fought since the Frank Martin fight. This was his first fight since then. So seeing that, Michael Rivera, through the motions, I mean, he wore, he even had Ali on his shorts. He had the proper Muhammad Ali attire in there, the white shorts, the white boots, everything. He even had Ali written, above the fell protector. It was actually crazy. You were looking at it, you were like, what? But yeah, Michael Rivera did that. Obviously, I didn't see Hector Luis Garcia versus Lamont Roach, but I did see in the build-up to this fight, Hector Luis Garcia was saying that he's going to prove that the loss to Tank Davis was a fluke. Evidently not, because Roach, I think his only loss was, back in 2019 to Jamal Herring. I think that was for the title, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Herring didn't look amazing in that fight, to be fair. But since then, Rene Alvarado, that's really it. He's not done much. In fact, he only fought once last year. Hasn't fought since July of then, so went in there, got a split decision win over Hector Luis Garcia, who was down in the 12th round. So, that is what that is. What weight was that at again? Super feather. So, yeah, look, Hector Luis Garcia, does it make that performance? Well, Tank Davis, obviously, that wasn't a big announcement when they fought at the start of the year. It was kind of just chucked together real quick. So, Hector Luis Garcia, it's going to take some coming back from that, certainly. Now, again, I haven't seen it fully, so I don't know, that split decision could really have been scored in favour of Garcia. I don't know. Charlo versus Benavidez. Right. Look at the weights. 163.5 pounds. I believe the catch weight for this fight was 163 thereabouts. It's still on BoxRec listed as a middleweight fight, even though they're both over the limit. Yeah. He came in heavy at the first weigh-in, and then apparently came in even heavier at the second weigh-in. He didn't look himself, needless to say, at the weigh-in. He did look a bit... It was really strange. He did look a bit kind of spaced out, is probably the best way I could describe it. He just didn't seem at the races at all. And again, some people are speculating, is that some of the medication he's been taking, because he has stated that he's been having some issues, certainly in his personal life he's been having some issues. And some people are saying that I heard a lot of people say that he reminded Charlo, certainly at the weigh-in, a bit like Scott Fitzgerald. Remember Scott Fitzgerald when he fought on the undercard of Parker Chisora 1? So for those who don't know, Scott Fitzgerald obviously had a great 2019. He beat Anthony Fowler and Ted Cheeseman, won the British title. It looked to be going on to bigger and better things. Scott Fitzgerald really shown some talent. He had his issues in 2020, a lot of them documented, a lot of issues, and then he came back. Eddie Hearn put him on that show in 2021. Now, Fitzgerald is a 154 pound fighter. I think that was at 168 or maybe even a bit heavier, and he just, the whole run up to that, he really shouldn't have been in the ring that weekend, truth be told. Now, he won because he was in there with someone who was never going to win, but he really shouldn't have been in the ring that weekend. He didn't look right at all, and you kind of got those same vibes off Charlo, to be honest with you. He really didn't look right at all. A bit spaced out, missed the weight by a couple of pounds as well. Was able to go in there, get the win over Jose Benavidez Jr., who is a limited fighter, it has to be said. His loss, I think he started his career at 140, so for him to be at fighting at little over, essentially 168, really not the way he should be at. Charlo just went through the motions, but to be honest with you, he just did not look right. I hear Danny Garcia saying that he'd like to fight Charlo next. I wouldn't like to see. I think Charlo needs to really sort himself out, to be honest, before really getting back into the ring. But saying that, he should be stripped of that title. I mean, if he's in no position to defend it, why do you have it? I mean, that's what making someone champion in recess is for, at the end of the day. And Danny Garcia, he really has no business at 160, that guy, right? He really doesn't. So that was that. Now we get into the two main fights. Subriel Matias, I mean, what? I don't know what more I can say about this guy. This guy, 20-1 with 20 knockouts. Yeah. I've heard this guy's name, Ervashek, I think is how you pronounce that guy's name. Because I heard it pronounced, I watched the fight a couple of times. And Ervashek, I think is how you say that guy's name. He came into the ring, he came in undefeated, but he was inactive for the last 15 months. This is the 5th corner retirement in a row that Subriel Matias has had. It really is quite remarkable to watch. This guy really is. I mean, Ergashev in the first round was competitive, and you'll often find that with Subriel Matias. He takes a few rounds. I say takes a few rounds to get going, but it's it's a bit like Alexander Usyk in one sense. Obviously, style wise, they're very different. But in a sense, if he warms into a fight, he kind of takes a look at the opponent in the opening round or two, and sometimes the opponent could even get some good offense in, like Jeremiah Ponce did in their fight earlier this year. But as the fight goes on, he just warms in, he sets a tempo, he's very heavy-handed, and the opponents, they're just not able to keep this guy off. He's able to just land these shots consistently. They're hard, they're heavy. He throws up to 100 punches around, maybe even a bit more when he really gets in his flow. And I think with the opponents, it's a case of he hits hard, there's no way of keeping this guy off. And, you know, I think as well as that, one of the reasons why a lot of people quit against this guy is obviously Subriel Matias. I'll tell you the fight here. It was obviously, you know, the fight I'm alluding to, the one in 2019, Maxim Dabashev, RIP. That was a tragic fight. And Dabashev actually wanted to continue in that 12th round. Thank God he didn't. But we know what happened. And I think that Subriel Matias is one of those fighters where he hits hard, but maybe not hard enough to be able to take you out. But you'll last, if that makes sense. And you don't really want to last because you've nothing to keep him off. He's hitting you consistently over and over and over and over again. And I think a lot of people remember that Dabashev fight and what happened in that fight. It was tragic. And I think a lot of that plays on fighters' minds. It has to. Especially considering the fact that you're in with the guy who did it. And Subriel Matias, with some fighters, it affects them in a real bad way. With Matias, it's not really seemed to affect him at all. He still is just every bit, you know, as ferocious as he was. And in terms of entertainment, I mean, this guy right here, he is entertainment and then some. Honestly, like, I couldn't see a Jack Catterall. I would really struggle to pick Devin Haney over this guy. I probably would just favour Haney. But I would look at Subriel Matias, that style, and just compare it with Haney. And I'd just be thinking, do you know what? If Haney's not allowed to clinch consistently, he's in for a real tough night against this guy because this guy is ferocious. And the tempo this guy sets is crazy. I just hope that we do get to see Subriel Matias in these fights while he's in his prime. He's 31 years old now. So I reckon he's got at least another... See, with that style, it's a bit, you don't know. But I reckon hopefully he's got another 3 years left of proper Subriel Matias. He may be in his prime now, he may be just coming into it. But I'd like to see him fight these guys in his prime and not kind of be, you know, a Subriel Matias who has a run with the IBF title for 3-4 years. He fights all his mandatories, but he doesn't get the fights until they start to see him on the decline. Then like, oh, swoop in, take that title. I hope we don't see that. I'd like to see him go now because Matias really is. Honestly, this guy is blockbuster. He really is. I cannot stress that enough. We get into the main event. Obviously, we have Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade. I obviously done a post-fight review on that, spoke about it at length. Yeah, look, I got the fight I pretty much expected. You know, a lot of people were saying that, you know, I was sleeping on Demetrius Andrade, that, you know, he could do this, or at the very least it was the distance fight. And I just thought, no, I can't see that style working. I can see Dave Benavidez going in there and just, you know, lighting this guy up. Might be competitive early on, but there's no way Demetrius Andrade is going to keep up that work rate. There's no way his legs are going to be able to move for the 12 rounds. He's going to become more stationary. He's going to get hit a lot to the body. Benavidez is absolutely huge in there. I mean, when you see Benavidez in the ring on fight night, you know, you struggle to think this is a super middleweight. I remember saying that a couple of years ago when you had the likes of Gilberto Ramirez down there. And obviously, Benavidez, I think, was still a champion when Ramirez was having his run as well. And you're looking at those two specifically, and you're looking and you're thinking, these are super middleweights. Like, I am looking at two super middleweights, and I'm looking at, say, Dmitry Bivol, Sergei Kovalev, Joshua Buatsi at 175 pounds. And these guys to the eye are bigger, much bigger. But they're the weight division below, and you're thinking, what the hell are they doing to actually cut all that weight? And the fact that Benavidez is still fighting at that weight now, I don't know how he does it. I really don't. I wonder, will he be a bit like a Ramirez in the sense of once he moves up, it's a case of, even for light heavyweight, it's going to be a bridge too far because the body will just kind of get, it just outgrow the weight naturally. Because Benavidez, how old is he? He's not old. He's 26. Yeah, I reckon he's living on borrowed time at 168, to be honest with you, in terms of how safe he can make that weight. If he's 26, I mean, yeah, honestly, he's probably living on borrowed time for how long he can make that weight, to be honest with you. In terms of the fight, as I said, I expected Benavidez to win fairly comfortably, probably mid-rounds. That's exactly what I got. Andrade, as I said, was handy early on. Speed, some good shot selections. But ultimately, he slowed down as I expected, and he got taken out as I expected. So Benavidez moves on. I find it very difficult to sympathise with Demetrius Andrade in this situation because, as I said, he could have had the Canelo fight. He should have fought Zach Parker. He could have got the fight off the back of that. He was a middleweight champion with nothing to bring to 168 pounds. That's literally what it was. He had nothing to bring to 168 pounds. Canelo was trying to unify that division, which he did in 2021. He then went up and fought Dmitry Bivol, lost. Fought Kovalev, fought Triple G. Well, he did fight Kovalev, but earlier. Triple G in the trilogy fight. And then he made a mandatory defence. That mandatory defence could have been Demetrius Andrade. But no, he chose not to fight Zach Parker for whatever reason. Go to PBC. Now he has this fight where he's probably got a lot less money. He's probably got decently paid, but less money than he would have got facing Canelo. If he'd just taken that smaller payday to fight Zach Parker, he would have beaten him, in my opinion. He would have beaten Parker pretty easily. And he could have been in there with Canelo. So I find it difficult to sympathise with him, to be honest with you. With the Billy Joe fight, yeah, that was not his fault in the slightest. Nothing he could have done about that. It was the Massachusetts commission who ruled that Billy Joe, they weren't licensing him because of the nasal spray situation. So that, not on Demetrius Andrade, you can't fault him there. And I do wonder, had he fought Billy Joe, I think he would have beaten him. How different his career might have been. It's a proper what if. But saying that, earlier in his career, he made some very bizarre promotional choices. He was promoted by Top Rank at one stage. He fought Brian Rose on Top Rank. And then he had some issues with them. Then he was in a bit of a limbo where he was fighting on just PBC cards, but I don't think he was even signed with them or anything like that. He went to Matchroom then. So from 2014 to about 2017, he was really in limbo, fighting once a year, if even. During that time, it was only really when he signed with Matchroom, because he signed with them even before the Zone. You may not know that, but he signed with them. I think it was 2017 he signed with them. I'm just going to double check. When did he fight? Yeah, Atlantis Fox in 2017, in October of 2018. That was Matchroom when they were doing the US show. So Danny Jacobs was their first original signing. Again, pre-DAZN, they were looking to branch into America. And obviously, when DAZN came in, he stayed and made some good money with DAZN. But probably they took L's left, right, and centre on the shows. So it's the situation there. I don't know. Can he even come back from that? That's the question. Because what promoter is really going to want to work with him after that? So let's wait and see. That was the PBC card. Now we get to the card that happened over in Dublin. Now I only seen 3 fights on this card, right? I seen a bit of Sky Nicholson's fight at the start. I seen Paddy Donovan against Danny Ball. He looked good. I seen Gary Cully versus Reese Moulds. And then I had to go out, so I didn't get a chance to see the main event. I haven't caught back up on it, but Katie Taylor won. I said that Chantel Cameron would win the fight. Because I expected her to, truth be told. I expected her to win the first fight, and I expected her to win the second fight. She didn't. So be it. I haven't done a post-fight on it because I haven't seen it. I'm not going to make a video on something that I haven't seen. I'm not going to go and, make videos just for the sake of it, because I actually have other things that I do in my time other than just sit around making videos. Because you had some people in the post-fight to the Benavidez were like, why aren't you doing mate, relax. One of the reasons why I do midweek report and review of the week is because I don't have the time to do a video on every little subject. Conor Benn was calling out Jaron Ennis last week, and the Eubank Jr. fight broke down. I didn't have time to do separate videos, so that's why these videos are so handy, because I can chuck it all in. I don't have to go and ramble on. I can just be like, right, this is the situation with that, blah, 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 move on. That's why I like doing these. That's why I've been doing them for over 2 years, because they are handy. Stuff I don't see or stuff I don't have time to cover, I chuck them in here, because some things I just don't have time to talk about, right? Shock horror. I don't live to just, bring out my recording equipment and just record about every little thing. There was a Queensbury card on Friday night. I didn't see it, so I'm not even talking about that, because I didn't even get a chance to watch any of the fights or rewatch any of the fights. So I haven't seen the Taylor Cameron fight. By all accounts, by what I'm seeing online, it was legit that she won, but one of the scorecards was too wide. I only seen a brief bit of Sky Nicholson's fight, so I can't really comment too much on that. In terms of Paddy Donovan, I've rated Paddy Donovan for years since I seen him turn over. I've always said that if I had one worry for Donovan, it's not even a worry, it's that he is a good fighter by the looks of things, certainly on the eye test, but he's a welterweight, so he's in a strong, tough division. So even if welterweight's one of those divisions where even if you're good, that might not be enough to get you to world level. You look at someone, right? Like, I'll give you an example. You look at someone like David Avanesian, and you see how useful he is at European level. Say he was fighting at 154, 160 with that same skill set, he might be better equipped for world level. At welterweight, it's like the chasm is so big that you could be a good European level fighter and you go in at world level, or certainly at elite level like the Crawfords, and you can't even land a glove on them. But you go and you see him against like the Josh Kellys of the world and people like that, and he's having an easy time with it. So welterweight's going to be a very tough division. In terms of Gary Cully, yeah, he was lucky. I did feel as though he did do enough to win legitimately, but he was lucky, because a lot of people, and I wouldn't have complained if they gave it to Reece Mould, gave that fight to Reece Mould. No issue with Cully getting it. I wouldn't have had an issue if it went the other way. From what I saw in that fight, Gary Cully, he is still dealing with the after effects of that knockout loss to Jose Felix. Is that the guy's name? Because he looked gun shy in there. Straight away. Now, I know he was hurt in the third round by a right hand from Reece Mulder, who is not even a big puncher, which is a bit of a worry. He's not even I don't even think he has that many knockouts on his record. How many does he have? 6 in 18 fights. Now, I will say that just because he has a low knockout ratio, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's not a good puncher or a big puncher, because there are certainly people out there who hit harder than their record suggests. A good example would be Bob Ajasafi. I remember he nearly knocked Tony Bellew into next week when they fought years ago at light heavyweight. I think he only had 1 or 2 stoppages at the time. And people who fought Bob Ajasafi say, he hits hard. So maybe Mould is something like that, but it just you can tell with the way some of them throw the shots that there's power behind it, and I don't think there's a great deal of power behind his shots. But needless to say, Gary Cully looked gun shy. He did. He looked very gun shy in there. It's hard to really gauge. He's with Joe McNally now. He's left Pete Taylor. A lot of fighters have left Pete Taylor now, because a lot of fighters have been losing and badly. A lot of them have been losing badly, actually. So I don't know. The jury's out on Gary Cully at the minute. At the end of the day, at the 2 weights below, Lee Wood beat the living piss out of this guy and had no problems. So it shows how far Gary Cully is off those types of levels. And yeah, I think that Eddie Hearn is going to want to be careful with him, because I think that he is still feeling the effects of that loss. Truth be told, I think he's still feeling the effects of that loss to Jose Felix, and he may not have the same confidence in his chin necessarily. And I think that could be it, because he just, for me, this is a guy who had no problem letting that left hand go, pop, 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 pop before. And in that fight, there was moments where he could have thrown that, and you could tell he's just holding back and just let the left hand go, Garrett. No, holding back. I worry if his confidence in his chin's been dented, and if it is, he's gonna have problems. He's gonna have problems moving forward, because I think it was Teddy Atlas who used to say, like, even if you start doubting your chin, that can make it worse. A lot of people say that's what happened to Tommy Morrison. Never had a particularly good chin. He didn't have a granite chin. And obviously the Ray Mercer knockout was horrendous. But it just seemed like after that, and I suppose that was a horrendous knockout, so that would. But because people kept saying he had a weak chin, it just probably made him think, oh, it probably is. And I worry if it's something like that for Cully. In terms of Taylor Cameron, Taylor's been talking about doing a rematch, a trilogy fight. Hey, go for it. Go for it at the end of the day. Proved me wrong. Credit to her. I really did think Chantel Cameron just had her number. I just thought she'd be just too big, too strong. A lot of people were saying, no, she legit deserved to win, but one of the scorecards was too wide. Yeah, that normally is the name of the game. They normally do. Even in a close fight, you could see scorecards come back nice and close, and then there's normally one that's just, what? So there was that. That was the Matchroom card. Now, one thing I want to say, and I'm going to do a separate video. In fact, I'm probably going to release this video before I do Review of the Week. So you'll get like a double helping, so to speak. And that was the fact that Adam Smith, his first appearance on TV in, well over a year, at this card. He was there supporting Katie Taylor. He was interviewed by Dazn. Now, Eddie Hearn has been... He's hinted a little bit that Adam Smith could be joining Dazn. Now, in what capacity? That is the question. Would he be joining it as a commentator, or could he be joining Dazn as potentially head of boxing like he was on Sky? Obviously, a head of boxing on Sky, he was still commentating. Now, Eddie Hearn seems to be, I don't know why, but very high on Costello. Why, I don't know. I mean, I remember when he joined Dazn originally, I was like, if I've heard Costello, it was unmemorable. And I heard people say, yeah, he's a bit unmemorable. I remember his first show was on Fight Camp. I think it was the last Fight Camp. I think he was doing the Olympics or the Pan Olympics or one or the other for the BBC. And then it was the last Fight Camp he'd be on. And I remember going into it, like you had the undercard and the guys who were doing the commentary, I think it was Chris Lloyd, was like, you think this is good? Just wait until Mike Costello comes. Wait until... It was like... It's like, imagine someone's telling you, you're going to get the best burger you've ever eaten. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing. And then someone gives you a cold Big Mac that they reheated in a mic. That's basically what Costello was. And honestly, you could tell he's done radio for a long time because he's got a proper radio voice and his style is just, that's radio. It's not television. Adam Smith is more a TV commentator. Adam Smith is a commentator I've never really warmed to. I've said that several times. But he does have his perks on commentary. And one of them is that whenever you get those big dramatic moments, how invested Adam Smith gets. Now, Costello, in a way, Costello's voice just stays the same throughout. Whether there's a lull in the fight or whether someone's about to be knocked out, he just tends to just... The tone never changes or the energy never changes. With Adam Smith, when you have those dramatic moments, I'll give him all the credit in the world for this. He really does have a way of just owning that moment almost. You even go back and look through the 2000s when Mark Potter fought Danny Williams and he had the shoulder go out. The minute Danny Williams dropped Mark Potter, the way Adam Smith just burst into life. And it really did when you listen to it, you're like, oh, that's clearly Adam Smith commentating because he's just so animated, but it's a good way. Because you're actually getting invested and he's screaming on commentary and it's actually quite good to listen to. When he does that, I always say that when he's on commentary, maybe being a bit more like a Larry Merchant who would only speak when he needed to. Maybe that's something that Adam Smith should be doing if he's going to go on Dazn. Because with Larry Merchant, he only ever used to speak when he needed to. He wasn't the main comment, that was Jim Lampley, but Larry Merchant would chive in whenever he felt necessary. And I wonder with Smith, should that be what he does? Where he just chives in when it's necessary, where it's a big moment, like, oh, wait, like that, blah, 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 blah. Because he's good with that. He is. And with him no longer being the head of boxing at Sky, in my opinion, it's been... You only have to look at the Sky shows. I think that Adam Smith, you only really notice it when he's gone, how good he was at certainly the product. The product has suffered immensely since Adam Smith's been gone. I mean, Ben Shalom, that guy, honestly, like, you look at what's going on, and the mass exodus of fighters. I mean, there is fighters like Jack Cattrall, who signed with Ben Shalom, never even had a fight on Boxer, who are just, going left, right, and centre. And I'm wondering if Adam Smith would have signed. Well, I said, well, when was it actually? No, he would have. Or would he? Yeah, no, I think he probably would have. I was going to say, would he have been as, adamant to bringing Lawrence Okoli over? But I think he was still part of Scott. Maybe Adam Smith, maybe that was something that Ben Shalom did. But I just think that if we look at the way Sky is now, you really see the lack of leadership there. Not that Adam Smith is necessarily, a leader, but he certainly understands boxing. He has enough experience, and he will be able to look at the product and say, what the hell is this? Let's change it around. Where without him, it's like, I likened it before. Imagine you're a script writer, and you have a team underneath you, and their job is to write script, and they're all terrible. They're all just like, you're reading them and you're like, what the hell is this? But you can take little pieces of what they're writing. You can say 95% of this script is garbage. However, this is a good little storyline, and mixed with this, we have a play. Whereas now it's just unfiltered. You have just these god awful script writers writing, saying, mad stuff like, let's pretend to send the boxer to Mars, right? We'll do it like The Martian, the movie with Matt Damon. We'll do it like that, and then he'll make his grand return from Mars. But here's the thing, he's not really there. Ben Shalom would look at that and think, I'm sold. That's what he's like on Sky. Honestly, that's what it's been like. It's been mental. Honestly, I cannot emphasize it enough how bad it's been. Anyway, moving on. Josh Taylor has stated that he intends to fight 3 times next year. Plans to have 3 or 4 fights before retirement from boxing. Yeah, he's near the end, I reckon. Moved to welterweight. Well, he's already ranked at 147, number 3, I think, by the WBC. So debut at welterweight, world title fight. He'll be looking to pick up a vacant title, no doubt, and then rematch Jack Catterall. Yeah, if he did that, I'd be flipping impressed. I would. I'd be very impressed if he did that, truth be told, because he's been lackluster, it's fair to say. I think Josh Taylor has been just enjoying the fruits of his success. There's no real harm in that. I suspect the hunger for boxing just ain't there anymore. I could be wrong. One of the big news that actually came out last week was that Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin, and obviously Deontay Wilder will be fighting on the same card as well. It will be shown on DAZN pay-per-view, $19.99 in the UK, $40 US, and $21.99 in all other locations. So that was the big talking point for the last week or so. Who would have the rights to this show? Because obviously Frank Warren has been kind of, it's not his show. And I think that was the thing that really shocked me. You had these Fury fanboys saying, Eddie's working for Frank and this, that was. It's like, it's not his show. He's not the promoter. It's co-promoted by, Salita. It's co-promoted by Matchroom. It's co-promoted by... It's fair to say that Warren is maybe at the kind of head. He's probably got the most going. But it's kind of co-promoted by all of them. So I was like, well, that leaves it open to whatever network could get it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be TNT. I speculated it would be TNT and it would just be DAZN everywhere else. But no, it's going to be on DAZN pay-per-view. 20 quid. Yeah, look, I've already said my piece on that. I don't mind paying the 20 quid for a card like this. But I do think, and I will keep reiterating this till I'm blue in the face, and if someone in DAZN is listening, I think you are missing a boat big time with this. You should give reduced rates for subscribers, long-term subscribers. You really should. You're paying, I have the monthly package, so I'm paying, 11 quid a month. So essentially, although it's only a 20 quid pay-per-view, it's basically 30 quid for me. Right? Basically 30 quid. Now, I understand it will be the same on TNT, because that also is subscription-based. So, TNT, I don't know how much TNT a month is, but let's say it's roughly the same. So it'd be roughly the same 30 quid a month. But I do think with DAZN, because it is, they try and make it the Netflix of sports, this, that, and the other, they should try and do something for the long-term subscribers. They should. If it's a case of, okay, it's going to be 10 quid a month for regular subscribers. So you are, 10 quid for the regular subscribers for this pay-per-view. So you essentially are paying the same. You're paying 20 quid, but you're only paying 10 for your subscription and then another 10 on top of that for the pay-per-view. That to me makes way more sense than just 20 quid for everyone, including the subscribers who are already paying a monthly rate as it is. Or maybe 20 quid. I don't know why anyone would buy that plan, to be honest, the monthly kind of flexi plan. I don't even know if that's still a thing now. Maybe it is. But I don't know why anyone would buy that anyway, because it just seems that you're paying extra for no reason unless you're going to cancel it. Makes no sense there. But yeah, it's going to be on DAZN pay-per-view. Look, I'm looking forward to the card. I'm glad that I know where it's going to be. I'm just so excited. I am just so excited that we're going to get to see this card. It looks absolutely like the fight I'm most looking forward to has to be Dubois versus Miller. I think that fight is going to be that fight. That fight has fireworks. John Fury said to the Metro, the style I'm seeing is no good. The style Tyson has right now, he wouldn't have beaten Vladimir Klitschko with. Usyk is a tricky man. You have to be on your best with him. The style he's got now won't do the trick. Say what you want to say about John Fury, and I have a lot to say about John Fury. There's a lot I don't like about him, but he has his moments. He does have his moments where he actually does speak sense. And you do see that, like, okay, he lets all the bravado, all the, stuff he says about himself. I did this, I did that. Yeah, sure you did. And, oh, my son, this, that, the other. But occasionally he does say stuff that does ring home. Like, a good example would be when Fury fought Otto Vallian. And he was having to go with Ben Davison, and he was saying, this isn't good enough. He can't beat Povetkin like this. He can't do this. And that's what he was saying. And he was right. He said Fury needs to come in heavier. He needs to change his style. And he did that. And obviously against Wilder in the trilogy fight, he won. Or in the rematch, I should say, he won. And he won it easier than we all thought he would, truth be told. I mean, I was shocked how easy he had it. I really genuinely was. I mean, it was absolutely shocking for me how easy he did, right? So when John Fury is saying now with the way Tyson is, he wouldn't have beaten Klitschko with it, it's interesting. Because John Fury, he always praises his son, but he's not afraid to criticize him at the same time when he really does see something. And I don't think he's saying that just, to lull Alexander Usyk. I think he really is looking at Fury and thinking Tyson and saying, God, you have slowed down. And if that style isn't working now, if you've slowed down for that style, we're going to have problems against Usyk. And I reckon that's something that John Fury is looking at. What he does, let's see. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. Benavidez has called out Canelo Alvarez. He said, let's give the people what they want to see. Let's do Benavidez versus Canelo. Let's do Benavidez versus Canelo. I'm all for that. Everyone, I'm sure, listening is all for that. Canelo Alvarez, we want to see Benavidez versus you. We all want to see it. I make Canelo still favourite in that fight, but I am all for that fight. Canelo has to fight him. Simple as. This is mandatory as well. He's to fight him. He has to fight Benavidez. And I won't accept anything less than a Benavidez fight, to be honest. If it's at 168, not Benavidez or bust. You got to fight him now. May, next year, Cinco de Mayo weekend, Benavidez, Alvarez, let's get it on. That is the fight I want to see. No excuses. I want to see Alvarez fight Benavidez next. That is one of the fights for 2024. Take my money. That's an all-nighter easily. Easy. That's an all-nighter. He's also said, Benavidez, that he will consider moving up to light heavyweight to challenge Bivol if the Alvarez fight won't happen. Now, I have to say, that is still a good fight. That is still a good fight, but I speak for everyone when I say I want to see Canelo versus Benavidez. And I think that, if you don't want to see Canelo Benavidez, I don't know. I really don't know what to say, because that is a great fight on paper. It's a fight that could go either way, I believe. I would favour Canelo, and Canelo's mandatory. The WBC, we know what they're like when it comes to mandatories. They're great at enforcing mandatories on fighters they don't care about, like Savannah Marshall. They're great at that. They're great at saying, we're going to do this if you don't fight this person straight off the bat. They're great at that. But when it comes to the Furies, the Charlos, the Alvarezes, it's more it just wouldn't be, that fighter has fought a limit. He's earned the right. But, it wouldn't be right for our champion to have to defend it. That's not fair. That's not what a true champion does. Oh, but, Savannah Marshall, you've just won the title. Well, come on, make a mandatory defense. Oh, you're injured? Not good enough. Give me that title. That's different. How is it different, Sullivan? I don't like the tone of your questions. That's what he's like, honestly. That's literally what he's like. Anyway, we go on with the boxing scene. Promoter Eddie Hearn says former two-time heavyweight champion is hoping to have the British star collide with Deontay Wilder in March. That's what Hearn is saying here. We had 6 weeks really, received a phone call from the Saudis. Do you want to fight in the card? Valine is the opponent. At the same time, we got offered for Bivol, blah, 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 blah. So long and the short of it, we want to see Wilder versus Joshua in March next year. Yes, we all do. The one thing I'm worried about, and don't go doing this, Eddie Hearn, is if Joshua wins, like I expect him, that they decide, nah, Wilder, push him to one side, let's go for Hrgovic. No, don't tell the fans you're going to fight Wilder and then not do it. Don't be doing that. Because some people are going to say, well, you know, he wants to be world champion. Hang on a minute, right? You're going to consistently say, he's fighting Wilder next, he's fighting Wilder next, it's done. He's fighting Wilder next, he's fighting Wilder next. And then not fighting next. Yeah, that's BS right there. You know, don't be going around saying it if you don't intend on doing it, right? If you didn't go out and say it, if you were saying, look, we're going to try and see what we can do. If the Wilder fight happens, maybe it happens. If it's not, we'll look at something else. But we've had no concrete offers, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. If they weren't being so loud about it and saying it's definitely going to happen next, and then go the other direction, well, you know, it wasn't even talked about, so why are you caring? But the fact that you keep saying it, and then you're like, oh no, we might go that way. No, you're not going that way. You said Wilder. That's what we want to see. That's what we're going to get next. And I think the Saudis want it. And if the Saudis want it, you know, they will open the checkbook and they'll get it. I think that's kind of clear cut. That's how it's going to be. So, yeah, boy, I hope this hasn't gone on too long. I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I will leave you with that. Peace.